We do a school panel every year, even though options and even many panelists and questions haven't changed very much. This is because we are all growing, and our children are growing, and things that weren't of interest then may be now. We aim to provide first-hand information to you on as many education options as we have time for, while not promoting or advertising any specific philosophy or institution above another. Biblical discernment and prayer are recommended for any school choice. And if you have any questions, you can talk with the panelists, any of the leaders or mentor moms at your table, or you can always shoot the Fallbrook MomLife Gmail and email. Brandon and I we're always on there. We'd love to talk with you if you have any questions about schooling. And with that, I wanted to start with also, does everybody have one of these beautiful handouts on their table? Okay, good. If you don't have any, please let us know. The first one is an amazing reference. Kelly Daly, can you stand up, please? Kelly made these, you guys. She made these beautiful handouts for us, just so that we could have some more information. They're pretty straightforward. In the back of the schooling handout, there's a section for notes, along with the names of each of the panelists. So that way, if you have notes, it's just like, Kelly, you really couldn't have made it any easier for us, so thank you for all of your hard work that you poured into this. All right, and with that, we are going to introduce our beautiful panelists. Would you like to start us off? Yes. So just say your name, tell us about yourself and your family, which school method you have chosen, and why.
Thank you. My name is Chelsea, and I'm a mother of 3. My children are 16, 13, and 11. I'm also the director of MCA, Bonsall Christian Academy here in town, which is an acting school, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about our alternative education option. There are a ton out there, and I'm not an expert on all of them, but I can tell you why we chose the one that we chose for our kids. So I would say that that journey kind of started back when I was in school, and I went to public school and traditional private school as a child, and my experience, I was a great student, straight A's, but looking back, I was always trying to seek the grade and the approval and of another person, and just wanting to be told I had the right answer. And so as an adult, I carried that habit around with me. I'm a pleaser. But and so just reflecting back for my own children, I wanted to instill in them critical thinking skills and confidence in their own answers, and giving them the tools that they need to research and just support their decisions in a way that wasn't always seeking approval. And so that led us to the active learning model, which emphasizes, like I said, critical thinking, growth mindset, leadership skills, and a lot of entrepreneurial skills, just life skills that the traditional education method didn't give me as a child. So that is a little bit about. Is that good? Yeah. Okay, great. Thanks.
I'm Sarah. I have a 4-year-old son who is in preschool at the Mike Choate Center in Fallbrook. I'm representing public school. The biggest reason I end up choosing public school for him, I guess there's kind of 2 reasons. First, I'm a single mom, so I'm a busy person. I'm a full-time student and I work. And so having that time for myself and having him with his own time and his own socialization has been really helpful. And the other part is that my son is also autistic, and he gets a lot of services and help at school, and he'll continue to get those services till he graduates. So.
school in general. I have 4 children. They are currently in college, high school, and middle school. And why we chose to homeschool is a very long story that I will summarize in just a couple sentences. I am a credentialed teacher, so I have taught in both public and private settings, as well as alternative education models and adventure schooling. And my children attended both private school and public school. When we moved down to Fallbrook, we decided to homeschool. That's what would work best for our family, and for being new to the area, we actually participated in the Mike Choate Center so many years ago. We participated in, at the time, what was Iowa Street School, which was a public homeschool opportunity in Fallbrook. It has changed quite a bit over the past 2 decades, but and then from there we went independent. My kids have been in and out of charter schools depending on the child. So in general homeschool, but a lot of different experiences, and really in the end it's what works best for our family, in our situations, in our seasons, and with our specific children.
My name is Danielle. I have 4 kids as well. I have twin 11-year-olds, a 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And we homeschool as well. And we've been homeschooling since the kids were really little. And I chose homeschooling because my husband was homeschooled. Excuse me. And so when we got married, or right before, I had said, oh, hey, by the way, I'm staying home and homeschooling the kids. And he said, okay, good. And that's how I made that decision. I have been asked to be homeschooled my whole life. I went to public school, and it was rough. It was hard. And so I just wanted to be home with my kids. And so we full-time homeschool, along with using like different charters and co-ops and community groups and things like that.
I am Janae Kramer, and I'm the director here at Children's Ministry at Riverview. And my husband and I live in Fallbrook, and we have 3 kids. One just moved out of the house, most likely permanently, we hope. He's almost 22, and then we have an 18-year-old daughter, senior in high school, and a almost 16-year-old son who's a sophomore in high school. And we chose the private school method. Instead of saying private school, I do want to say Christian school, because that is the reason we chose it. When I look at our life and my faith and our journey, we chose it because giving our kids a biblical worldview is the most important thing we can do when we're raising our children. And that comes from the home first, and from parents, but then, second, what they learn at church and youth group, and then what better way to also instill the Word of God and a biblical worldview in their education. And so that's why we chose it. I feel like it's a safe place in a scary world. It doesn't protect them from everything, but it's just a little bit more of a cushion. And it's really blessed our family tremendously. And it's a very traditional style. And I think that's good if your kids are college bound. 2 of my kids, one for sure graduated college, and then my daughter's going to go off to college because of what she wants to do with her life. And probably for my third, I don't think he's going to go to college, and that's fine too. But those are factors that we considered. And I just want to say one thing really quick. Sorry, I'm not going to do this again, but I had something on my heart. And I remember when Danielle was talking about homeschooling last year, and I was like, wow, I want to homeschool. Like, that sounds amazing. And it reminds me of when I thought, I love the idea of sewing. And I was like, got a sewing machine. I asked my mother-in-law to teach me, and I made bean bags for my brother's wedding because it was right when cornhole came out. And those bean bags fell apart in the first 10 minutes. outpatient. I didn't enjoy it. It was a chore. And my sewing machine now is at my mom's house. Never used it again. So that's kind of like how homeschooling was for me. I loved the idea of it. I thought it was amazing. I still love it. You could still probably kind of talk me into it, but no, I'm not going to do it. But it just wasn't for me. And it's sometimes humbling to know that God has made us all so different, and we all have different gifts. And He called me into work here, and I know that I'm called here beyond a shadow of a doubt. And so I just want to encourage you with that thought.
That was well said. I couldn't have said that any better. Thank you so much, ladies. All right, so our next question is just to kind of get an idea of what does a typical maybe day or week look like for you? How much parental time and effort is needed in your school choice? And how much do you put into lesson planning, teaching, organizing, shuttling, or extracurricular activities? So we would just, we'd love to hear, like, what does a day look like for you, or a week, just to kind of give us an expectation of how much engagement is required on your part.
Okay. I do work at this school, so I'm going to speak as if I was just a parent there. Okay, so as a parent with Acton, it is a drop-off program. So it requires very little on the part of the parent. Typical hours, most of our students attend full-time, although there are part-time options as well. But for our kids that attend full-time, drop off at 8 in the morning and then pick up at 2:30. The kids are not sent home with homework because Acton feels that there's enough time at school to get all of their work done, and after school time should be spent with family or sports or instruments or cooking or chores or however the family wants to spend their time. Acton really respects that. So at school, the kids are motivated by a lot of fun and gamified methods of learning, and so they're able to get a lot done during the day. We get a lot of competitions and just instilling that motivation so that they aren't left with a ton of homework to do at the end of the day. So parent involvement, and then obviously extracurriculars, that would be up to the parents. We don't have or anything that takes up after school time. Yeah. Okay.
Public school is not super parent involved. All I do, well, right now I'm not even taking my kid to school. The bus comes and picks him up on our street and drops him off. But normally, drop off and pick up, that's like a 10-minute routine for me because we live close. And then right now he's in school 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, but next year that goes up to like 7 or 8 hours when he's in TK. So I get, all day to myself, and since he's little, there's no homework or anything that comes home. Eventually he'll be coming home with homework, and I know I'm gonna have to be more involved with helping with that. And volunteering is very much at your own will. I help out a little bit at my kid's school, but it's not a requirement. Just depends on how much you want to be involved.
For homeschooling, you are involved. But there's been so much opportunity that has opened up, especially in San Diego County in Southern California, over the past 2 or 3 decades. So the world's your oyster. You really can design, plan, prepare as much or as little as you wish. And that can be very personally driven and designed to you and your child and your situation each year, year by year. There are lots of opportunities for assistance or collaboration with other families or other moms. There are drop-off programs, there are gathering and connecting programs and opportunities, public, private. There are charter schools, so As a homeschool parent, you can, I mean, you're involved. You're not fully disengaged ever, but what that looks like from the day-to-day changes according to who you are and how God made you and how God made your child and your home and your family and what your needs are from year to year. You know, if you're in a year where you're pregnant, you give yourself more grace. If it's a year where there's a new family member who is entering the home, that is a beautiful learning opportunity, and it is part of life education, and you go ahead and lean into that. If you have a student who is academically driven and they are in high school, then academics are the thing in your house for that kid, and it might be pretty intense, and it might not be. So, am I answering the question well? Okay, great.
So all those things, and I'll just say, for example, in our home, so we do a Charlotte Mason literature program called Ambleside online. It's what we've been doing for 6 years now, and so we love it. And so as each kid joins us, so I started with the twins when they were, 5, and then as each kid joins, so when they were littler, or even for my youngest, it's very hands-on. So I sit with him for 10 to 20 minutes for each subject. So we write together, and then we read together, and then we do math together, and then we do piano together. And our seasons as well have changed every year, purely of like, what do I see my kids needing to be able and driven, and for me to handle it. So are we doing a lot together? Am I trying to constantly separate the kids so no one's ever trying to play in the midst of us trying to get school done? Do I want them to just be playing nonstop and pulling one kid at a time? So we've changed, I would say, every year of what the season looks like and what our kids need. So right now we're in a season of a checklist. So every kid has a week printout of what they need to get done for that week, and I print them out on Sunday. So I spend 5 minutes prepping for the whole week. I don't look ahead. I don't know what's coming. I just kind of take it as it comes, and then we open up our books and we flip to the next page from the day before, and we keep going. And so I see and I learn just right alongside them, and for this season it works so nicely. My 3 olders, for the most part, have lots of questions, but they can do all their reading, writing, and math on their own. I'm just kind of supplementing with them. If they want me to do their readings for them, we sit and we do read alouds together. If they want to listen to an audio while they color, they can. So if they have any questions and they're struggling, they come to me. So there's lots of involvement in that way of just being available. But because they're all proficient readers, they don't really need me to handhold them through every instruction and every page and everything that they need to do. So my prep in this season is very little. I don't even pull out the books they need. In the past, I would pull out the books they need and put them where they needed them for the next day and kind of prep our room. Right now, it's purely like everything needs to be clean, and they need to know what's coming tomorrow, and they can find it on their own. They can pull their books. So we have just our bookshelves available. So my prep is little, but my involvement or being available to be involved is really high. And then just lots of check-in. Hey, did you get that done? Hey, do you have any questions? Hey, bring me your checklist. Is it all complete? And my 2 oldest, they just have to turn everything in by the end of the week. So I say, by Friday, everything has to be done. And so they bring me all the things by Friday, and I'm just there. We have, a house, but one room basically where we do everything in, so I can see what they're doing. Like, hey, I've seen you playing inside that cardboard boat that your brother built for the last 2 hours. That seems fun. Do you think you could read in there while you're doing that, or would you like to get something done? So that when we're having fun later, you can also join us. But I try to allow a lot of that. We do a lot of baking and sewing, and our sewing machine never goes away. There's too much fabric everywhere. One of my sons is in a robotics class, and so there are robotics pieces everywhere. We have art out all the time, so the ability to do a lot of things is available, and then our school is kind of weaved into that. Yesterday, my daughter was in tears because I told her that she needed to finish her last item. And she goes, but Mom, you say that like we can get it done by the end of the week. And I said, I do, but I'd really like you to just get it done right now before you start playing. And she was really sad. And she goes, but you say that like homeschool is so that we can, have fun and play. And I said, you know what? That's true. Except for we took an hour break to go rollerblading with your cousins already. You baked us something this morning. You colored while you listened to your audiobook, and then you went and played outside. And it's only 10:30. So I think it's okay for us to do one more thing, which is your last thing to get done for the day. So that's kind of what our life looks like. We also do extracurricular. So one of my daughters does gymnastics. Like I said, my son, he takes an online robotics class. We play soccer whenever, in the season of soccer, so two of my kids are gonna play soccer. So we kind of weave those things. We do piano lessons, group piano lessons. So all my kids do that together. Sorry, that was a really long answer, but that's what my involvement looks like, and it changes a lot because your kids change season to season. So sounds like a dream. So day to day is kind of the opposite. No, I'm just kidding. It's Monday through Friday, traditional. It's like 8 to 3, drop them off. So one thing to consider is distance when you're looking at schools. How far do you want to drive? Where do you want your life to be? For play dates and things like that. So just something to consider. We're 30 minutes, so that sort of changed. There were times where I felt like I lived in my car, and I kind of did. And I would put a lot of miles on my car. And so there's all those things to think about and consider when you are choosing your school. And so traditional, you can be involved as little or as much as you want. I mean, they always want parent volunteers at private schools, at Christian schools. So I had the opportunity to do a lot of amazing things. I drove to every single sports game and had a car full of kids. And that was a huge blessing, because when you're driving in a car with kids, they don't think you're listening. It's amazing, the things you learn. You just sit there quietly and, take it all in. And so, there's so many blessings, because if you are going to be a working mama, you have the opportunity to just bring your kids. They're safe, they're taken care of, and you can go to work. And then homework heavy, I would say, actually. That was, for me, sort of a negative. So my goal was always to kind of like train them to be self-sufficient. I don't micromanage homework. I can't do that. That's not my personality. And so, thankfully the teachers really do most of that, And to be honest, we would sometimes have an older student in high school or their sibling tutor for math, because that's always where we needed help, and I'm not much help in pre-calculus. And so, or things like that. But when they're small, it's not hard. It's easy in elementary. But there is homework every day, but not a lot in elementary school. It's manageable. And day-to-day extracurricular sports are at the school once they hit junior high. I think that's typical for most Christian schools. That's a blessing. The elementary does have like a musical that they can do every year, and that is also after school. You don't have to go pick up in between or do anything. They just walk the kids over to where they practice, and that's kind of a neat thing, an opportunity. They all get to learn an instrument, which is extracurricular, and so also really neat. They do recorders in 4th grade, instrument in 5th grade, and then all the way through. Also, I think pretty typical for Christian schools. So.
Wow, I love that, even with all of these very different lifestyles, I love that the two things I'm hearing are, you are able to put in exactly like what you're able to put in, and that's just such a huge blessing. And then two, I'm hearing a lot of grace, and that's just like such a huge relief, and it's so cool to hear that in each of your responses, even though your daily lives may look very, very different. So I love that. Thank you, ladies, for all of your answers so far. Our next question is more towards the finances. how does your schooling choice fit into your financial life? And are there costs associated with your school? And is there any financial assistance or scholarships available?
I'll speak to the program that we are using. There is cost involved. I think as with any drop-off program, most of them do have a cost. The cost for our alternative option tends to be quite a bit less than the traditional private, obviously more than the homeschooling though. So it just depends on, you know, what fits into families' budgets and what they're comfortable with.
Okay, so they can really modify.
Okay, sorry. For our particular program that we use, there are options for parents to trade hours for, okay, all right. If they want to do volunteer hours and trade to get their tuition reduced. Is that helpful? Yeah, okay.
Can you use charter funds for your option?
Unfortunately, our program mine in particular is a Christian program, so you cannot use charter funds. I think that's pretty standard for most charter schools. They won't allow it for religious programs.
Public school's free, completely free, and you also get free lunch, which, as a crunchier mom, concerning sometimes, but there's progress being made there too. So free school, free lunch.
You can put as much money into homeschooling or as little money as you are able. I know moms who get a free library card, and it's just the cost of gas to wherever you're going to go. And then if you want to, you can hire tutors. You can engage in extracurricular activities. You can do music lessons, extra classes here or there. If you enroll in a charter school, then there are funds available for you to use for approved teachers. For most charter schools nowadays, there's one that's slightly different, but and that can change from season to season. Any curriculum that you purchase, any curriculum that you want, you will find. You can borrow curriculum, you can buy used curriculum, or you can purchase brand new curriculum. Ambleside Online is a free resource for organizing your homeschool. You can get those books from the library, and there's no cost there. What we found, being a family of 6, is the at-home costs go up because me and 4 children were at home all day, every day of the week. So we use a lot more water, a lot more toilet paper, a lot more septic system. It was really interesting to compare our usage to our neighbors' usage, and I mean, even PE gym class, you know, there are students that shower at school. So it's just something to consider, but it's okay. It was worth it for us. And then there are private groups that will offer, and organizations that do provide scholarship opportunities, so to help pay for curriculum and resources, or to help pay for classes. And then there are some homeschool groups that gather, and that's what it's a co-op, and I'm sure that Danielle will speak more to that. But that cost is free. You share ideas, you collaborate together, you share resources, and you're great at science, I'm great at reading and writing, so you do that part, I'll do this part, that kind of thing is one way to do it. You can hire teachers to come in and teach a small group, like a cohort or a pod, which became really popular in 2020. Those things still exist, and there's a lot of flexibility in determining your costs. And so that can change with your seasons and your needs as well.
Yeah, so we use a local charter, and so we get a certain amount of money, I think we get like $3,500 a year per kid, and then we can use that towards educational expenses. So if I want to buy something that I need for like printer ink or paper at home, I can buy those things, or my kids take like extracurricular classes like piano and electives at Thrive, which is like a local program. And so I can use my funds towards educational things. And then in our home personally, we try not to buy anything for school unless we can buy them with funds. So if we can't do it with the funds, then we don't do it, except for our books from Ambleside. We could go to the library, but we love books. And so we like to keep our books, and we're also not very nice to our books sometimes, and so I don't want to ruin somebody else's books. And then we also, again, I have 4 kids, and my plan, and so far has worked, is that you're not going to read different books. So the ones that we have available are the ones that you're going to read for your year, and so we like to keep them so they can then last longevity through all the different kids. So I like to say our costs are about $100 a year when it comes to actual school expenses. We buy I like to use thrift books and find the cheapest possible book that I can for all the books that we buy, but we have to buy a certain amount of books for the curriculum that we use, and that's probably the only thing that I really care about spending our money on. Everything else I feel like is secondary for us. So if the funds can't cover it, then it is fine. We don't need it in our home.
So there is a cost, and that you can look on all the websites, whatever Christian school you're interested in, they post it, and there is, especially, well, I know specifically for our school, and I believe probably some other ones, an endowment fund, and you can apply for financial aid through a third party, and you are given an allotment or a stipend according to what your income is, and so that's a lovely thing that a lot of people at our school tap into. And so don't just look at the price tag and there might be some options. So thank you.
One thing that I was thinking when I was listening to you talk about your at-home costs was I was like, I wonder if the charter funds would cover toilet paper. I'm sure the answer is no, but I was just laughing at myself. Okay. Are there any resources, Sarah, you already kind of spoke to this earlier, but are there any resources available for children who struggle academically? Or maybe even resources for you, support for you as you support that child? Does that make sense? Yeah, absolutely. So with the program that we attend, it's all self-paced mastery, which is really similar to, I think, the homeschooling options, and I think that's so great because all children learn every subject at a different pace, and it's really not natural for a second grader to be at second grade reading and second grade math and science and history and social skills and all of that. So our program is a mixed age, which is very similar to I think a lot of the homeschooling groups as well, and I think that works well for kids that develop a little bit slower socially or quicker, or like you said, in math, if they need more time. I think the best thing to do for your child is to just give them more time, and if they're flying through the material, similar to homeschooling, they can have the ability to move forward. So self-paced learning, there's also older students that will act as mentors and tutors. As far as other alternative schools, I know there are other wonderful options if your child is into art. There's specific art schools where you can nurture that passion. Theater, there's theater programs, if that's just one of your child's strong points. Nature school, farm school, if they're really into that. And just don't stress if they're a little bit behind in one subject. It's so normal. I think probably everyone up here would agree. And just give your child the time and the grace to master it at their own rate, even if it's a little behind or advanced.
Like I said, this is one of the biggest reasons I chose public school for my son. There's a lot of support for special needs of all different kinds, And it's gotten a lot better since I was little because I'm also autistic and my little brother is even more severely autistic. And so watching him and his experience in public school as a kid versus what my son's experiencing now, massive strides in the programs. They are so much better than they used to be. Yeah. My son has an IEP, which helps, they tailor his education to his specific needs, to his specific skills. He's a very intelligent kid. He has a lot of like motor and social emotional delays. So they've been able to work with that. They have a behavior intervention plan for him to help control some of those behaviors and the aggression. He is in like a hybrid special ed, general ed program, so he gets peer modeling and socialization with neurotypical kids, but then also gets special education services like speech, and some kids will get OT, some kids will get all these different kinds of therapies. That's more on the more severe side. The other kind of benefit of that is if your kid has an IEP, this is where my crunchy self comes in, you can also choose not to vaccinate your kid. So that was like a hard thing for me with public school is I don't vaccinate. And I really wanted to homeschool, especially after hearing you talk like a couple years ago. I was like, homeschool, yes. But then I realized I can't provide the same services that they can. Like, I need my kid to have the support, and once I found out that I didn't have to vaccinate him, I was like, God created these special ed teachers different. He needs to be there, so.
It's true, special ed teachers are really incredible people. I've worked with many. Alternative services, right? Okay, there is support available. Just to be really honest, it's harder to get. Legally, you are supposed to have access to it as a homeschool family. The district is supposed to legally help you access those resources. The willingness and the help that you receive to access those resources changes from district to district and administration to administration. Charter schools is one route to go if you need extra support but you want to continue homeschooling. Charter school is more readily willing, able, and excited to work with your alternative style of schooling and help you find the resources that you need. There are families who receive resources direct from the county for special needs or extra services. I know some families who have decided to enroll their special needs student in the public school system because of the services and the incredible people in the program who provide those services. It doesn't mean it's not available to a traditional homeschooler, but it requires a lot more work by the parents to access, and it can be a grind, and it can be wearying, and when you have multiple children in the home, or other things happening in the home, that's the decision that every parent has to make, is what's the balance that is best for our family and for our particular children this year, or maybe this season, or it kind of changes. But the answer is that there are services available. And then just in private school, in public school, and in homeschool, the services that you might be introduced to end up often falling short also. And so often parents in those systems end up going privately for services on their own. It's really about matching the right people to who you are and who your children are. And God is the one who's going to do that for you. It's really about being on your knees, living a life to serve Him, and keeping Him at the forefront of your family and at the forefront of your educational choices. And He will absolutely provide everything that you need in the right time.
Amen.
Yeah, I would say, at least from what I've seen with homeschool families, charters are such a great way to get the services you need. And specifically, as a homeschool mom, it's been really nice to watch some of my friends find the right program for their kid instead of having to just use whatever one's available, because there are so many different charters available. I've seen a couple of friends go and find the one that worked for them instead of feeling like they had to just use the one. And so they would go and try a couple different ones. And so, yeah, like she said, it is a little bit more daunting, but being able to be more specific for your kids' needs and the type of help you want, I've seen benefit a lot of families.
So, private school, Christian school is probably, they have programs. Our school does specifically, it's called PLACE, and they don't test, so that would either need to be done privately or you can do it through public school. That's what we did. My daughter has dyslexia, and so we did it through the public schools because it was free. And then they, instead of giving her an IEP, they gave her an ISP. I have no idea what it stands for anymore, it was a long time ago. And those set her accommodations, which then we gave to our school's PLACE program. And so she is given the same accommodations for test taking, things like that. And so there is something, it just, I would say, to be honest, if your child is just depending on how much they need, it's limited, so, there are children on the spectrum that do have AIDS, things like that, but, anything severe, they wouldn't be able to probably accommodate, so.
Thank you, Jenny. I feel like that's kind of a tough question. Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and experience with us. We really appreciate it. Okay, so now switching gears, what extracurricular activities are available for your children through your school? And if they are going to a school, are there before or after school activities?
So our program does have after-school care available to families that need it. As far as extracurriculars, there is opportunities to do performances in the local theater, which a lot of the kids really enjoy. They have PE and sports during the school day, so it's not after school. As far as other extracurriculars, most of those are done individually by the families if they want to do like local soccer or piano lessons and stuff like that. Yeah.
There's lots of opportunity for extracurriculars in public school. The Mike Choate Center specifically doesn't have a whole lot because it's a preschool and they're all babies. But once you're in TK and up, there's a before and after school program. They have different sports programs. Some schools have arts programs, some schools have theater programs, things like that. There's lots of opportunity for kids of all different ages.
Homeschooling, you can incorporate that extracurricular or a lot of it earlier in the day, which we really took advantage of when my children were younger. So piano wasn't in the evening, piano was earlier, when we're not quite so tired and we're not hungry, and it hasn't been a long hot day, those kinds of things. So we appreciate that. Horseback riding, violin, trying to think of STEM, those kinds of things. We would incorporate them earlier in the day. My students in particular, my own children, they started out doing 1 day a week classes with some teachers, so they would get some, it wasn't necessarily extracurricular, but it would be writing and science, but it's group settings, a regular classroom credentialed teachers here in Fallbrook, beautiful ladies, and then that would grow into 2 days a week. In the high school years, the students will do dual enrollment, so they're taking classes that are provided by the local community colleges or online university classes, and so that again is earlier in the day. so they can continue. I have 2 athletes, so they have athletic things in the evenings, especially once you're in high school. And then I have one student who has processing disorders. He would probably likely have an IEP if he was in the school system. And he was able to learn at his own pace. We just waited a lot of the waiting, a lot of the time, and letting God do his work in him. And now he is my student who he builds. He's a welder. He's in high school, but he's welding. It's really incredible. We get to incorporate those things into his regular education. So he gets to work with a welding company, and it's really neat. So yeah, it's really neat. He's 16 in a couple days, but he won't be driving yet, and that's a good thing. But he's welding. Yeah, high voltage. So, to each his own. And I think I've answered the question.
Yeah, I would say that's sometimes a really hard part for homeschooling is there are so many options, and they go from too many to I can't do anymore. And so, which is sometimes really sweet, but can feel really overwhelming. So basically, they're all available because you have the day to organize as you wish for your family. And so we've had to be really selective in the things and the people that we choose to spend our time with, because the most difficult question is, do they socialize? And in our homeschool life, it's like we try and get them to socialize less. Like it's just there's too many opportunities to spend so much time with people and other families. And so for extracurriculars, like I said, we do like the local soccer. My kids do piano. We've done swim before. They take these classes at Thrive. So there's so many opportunities of places and things. If your kids want to learn anything, there is a class for it. Your kid's interested in it, you can find it. And the nice part is most of them are during the day, so you don't have to use your evenings for that. So yeah, like Brooke said, it's really nice, but you get to tailor it to your kid and to your family, and there are seasons where you just have to say, no more. Like we just can't do another thing, but you can learn that next year, because it will still be there for you to learn and participate in later. So one of my daughters is doing theater right now, one's doing gymnastics, we're doing soccer, and last year looked different. They all played soccer and piano, and so they all didn't get to do another thing. It's just too many things to try and schedule, but it's sweet when they're all available and you get to say, what are you interested in learning and trying, and then if that doesn't work, it's okay, because there's another thing for you to try and to learn.
So extracurricular, well, there's before and after school care, and they offer that as needed. And extracurricular for elementary, it's really would just be that musical I mentioned. And then I do know that it's a tight-knit community because it's small, and it's really sweet to see the little elementary kids. They join like the local soccer league, but then they all are on the same team, and so you usually have a dad from the school coaching, so they're actually practicing after school at the school. So that's like a super neat thing that really has gone on for dozens of years, and so kind of a neat tradition. I'm talking mostly just soccer, but I think that's what most of our little ones like to play. And then once you get into junior high and high school, it's mostly sports, musicals. A lot of times there's tutoring going on after school. You're paying an older student to tutor after school, or maybe it's a music lesson done by either like a piano teacher on the campus. There's like a lot of opportunities. It's all kind of in-house, and actually another big reason why we love the school so much is because it's sort of a one-stop shop. It's been a huge blessing. We chose not to put our kids into any sort of travel sports purposefully, and it's just been a huge blessing to just have it all be in one place. And it draws our family together after school, and we're not separated out going here or there everywhere. We're just all there, and we're all doing the things together, and that's been a blessing to us. And I would imagine most other private schools would be like that. So, and then one other thing I wanted to touch on, because of you were talking about your son in welding. So I do want to be honest, and it's something that is important, and it's hard for my character to switch gears. I like things to be neat and tidy, and maybe some of you can understand this. You know, all of our kids will graduate from this school, and they're all gonna, you know, they're all doing the same thing, and everything's simple and easy, and we're familiar with it. Well, this year, my husband and I are deciding to put our youngest next year, for the last 2 years of high school, into Fallbrook High School. And I never would have thought that we would do that or consider it. And with that, I want to say two things. First thing is that be on the same page as your husbands, ladies. And it's really important, because God will put on both of your hearts when you're praying and you're seeking what's best for your children together. I know that He reveals that together as a couple, and so that you're united in that. And so be patient with each other and bring them along too, because I know sometimes us wives are the ones that are just really, you know, I think we often have to tell our kids, oh, our kid's starting kindergarten next year, and they're like, oh, they are? At least that's how my husband was. And so, you know, you're the one who's like figuring it all out, and bring them along and make the decision together and pray together. I just want to encourage you in that. And then also, it's okay to change your mind. And all of our kids are different. I am amazed at how wonderful and beautiful our God is, that our siblings, our kids that are siblings that have the same genetics, how different they can all be. I mean, they can be so different, and God is so creative and good and amazing that, you know, what worked for my oldest two is not really what's best for my younger one. He loves to weld, he needs to go to auto shop, he loves ag, he needs to, you know, do all those things at school, and Calvin does not offer that. And so, you know, be flexible and open to other ideas, and God will protect him in public school, and he will use our children no matter where they are. And we need strong Christian kids in our public schools. So I just want to say that. And I'm looking at Adrienne, and her girls were that. So she has beautiful, strong girls that were a light at Fallbrook High. So
Thank you, that was beautiful. I was thinking also, strong Christian parents. Yeah, strong Christian parents. And strong Christian parents, in no matter which choice you make for your schooling. You know, we are the ones who are setting the cultural tone. We're the ones who are setting the standards, and we're the ones who are being the examples for other parents who are making the same decisions, you know? So I really, really love that. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, strong Christian kids and strong Christian parents, no matter where you are. Okay. So here's our final question to wrap it up. Thank you so much for the wisdom that each of you have already shared. What has been your greatest joy in being part of your children's education? And then on the other side of that, what is the biggest, or some of the biggest, challenges you faced in educating your children?
I'm going to start with the challenges. Okay. One thing I really appreciate what Janae said about not worrying if you do have to make a change. One of our biggest challenges was actually finding this model that worked and that we were really excited about. My son started off at a private school in Vista, and then we moved to Fallbrook. We tried, I think it was the Iowa Street that Brooke talked about. We tried Willow Tree. We did homeschooling. My son was in public school, so we tried a lot of different things. Poor guy, dragged all around. But it's okay to change if something's not working for your family, so don't feel pressured to, oh my gosh, they're starting kindergarten and I have to decide what the rest of their life is gonna look like. You may start out homeschooling and realize that when they hit junior high, it's not working anymore, or you may start in a private school and then your finances change, and it's totally fine to make adjustments. Or maybe whatever works for your first child didn't work for your second or third child because they have a different learning style, and it's totally fine to make changes along your journey, like I did. One of my greatest joys that I did not realize I would have was with education. I thought it would be so much about the grades and the academic success and the GPA, and that's what education's all about. And I really enjoyed watching my own kids develop a growth mindset, which was not something I grew up with. I was afraid to try something new because I was such a perfectionist and I thought I would do bad. And so trying to take away that fear of failure with my children, and also instill, like I said, the growth mindset. Like you're never gonna start anything as an expert. You're always gonna start as a beginner, and just be happy with your progress, and try different things. I lost my train of thought, but anyway, yeah, I think, the other thing I was gonna say was, also the soft skills have been amazing, and I think I didn't value them as much as the academics previously, and now being an adult working in the adult world and just having relationships with other adults, coworkers, spouses, friends, those soft skills are just so important. Just the ability to even be called up here to, do a little bit of public speaking and feel comfortable on a panel. That would have terrified me when I was in school. I hated oral presentations. But just practicing those, learning how to look an adult in the eye. My kids have learned, how to shake hands, do a proper greeting, how to, we have a peace table script, and the kids learn to resolve conflict, almost like they would, in marriage counseling. It's amazing. So just giving them those life skills and really seeing the value in them has been, I think, one of my biggest joys. And also learning just, how important they are over the academics for me personally.
My joys and challenges kind of overlap a lot, because one of the biggest challenges initially for me was getting over my own fears of putting my kid in public school, because I went through all the different schooling types: homeschool, public school, private school, Christian school, public charter, private charter, all of it. And they all kind of sucked. And knowing that my son had certain challenges that I also had, and looking at my brother's experience especially, and how rough school was for him, it was really hard for me to say, okay, I need to just abandon my expectations and see what happens, because I'm losing my mind. I know that homeschool is not the best option. I went to my old Christian school and was like, hey, can I enroll my kid? And the principal, who used to be my 7th and 8th grade teacher, said, love you, we can't help him. Like, very transparent with me about what they could provide for him. So that's been one of the biggest challenges for sure, just like letting go of my expectations, and that brings me into like the biggest joy. It's been such a blessing to watch my son grow so much, and he loves school. He's always so excited, even if he's like, I don't want to go to school. By the time he sees the bus pulling up, he's like, I'm ready to go. I want to go to school. And he's so excited, and he loves his teachers, and he loves his classmates, and he's doing so well and getting the support he needs. And all the fears I had about, public school, it's so scary and kids are going to corrupt his little brain, it's made me trust in God more and focus more on like, okay, I don't know what they're teaching in that school, but this is what the Bible says. This is what we're going to focus on. And you know, you made a good point. I actually went to school with Adrian's girls, and I gotta say, like, her daughter Audrey, one of the sweetest people on the planet, and it gives me hope that like public school kids can be really great and really nice and lovely and Christian. So a lot of it has just brought me closer to God and made me trust Him more. So
I think we're going to hear a lot of similarities in all of our responses, because ultimately the hardest things are, they relate to who we are and what God is doing in us, in our minds and in our hearts as we follow Him, and doing that in such a way that honors Him in the day-to-day. The hardest thing when my kids were little is different than the hardest thing when they were in middle school, is different than the hardest thing when they were in high school, is different than the hardest thing when they're in college. But ultimately, every hard thing is a place for God to show up and to bless and to grow me and to grow my kids. And so that is really also the biggest joy, is watching the Lord reveal Himself in really beautiful and personal ways to my children, their faith growth and their experience. Watching them go through hard things is so hard, but it is also so beautiful at the end. And so to go through all of those processes, for me personally, the hardest thing is being patient and trying to be gracious in the waiting. And that's going to happen no matter what kind of educational model you choose. And just because we're human, and God's working things in us and working out some stuff from us. And one other great joy that was an unexpected joy, specifically to our family and related to homeschooling, is the relationships that we got to foster amongst our children and with our children. My kids are friends. I grew up in the public school system. I was always in a different grade than my brother. We barely saw each other throughout the day. There were times that we didn't see each other all day because we were in a lot of extracurricular activities, and we might have seen each other at night, quick meal, pizza place or the taco place, and then go to bed. And it's been really neat now that they are young adults to see them. One of my favorite things is to walk around the corner when they're all home and they're hanging out in the living room and they're laughing and they're joking, and a lot of times I have no idea what they're talking about because of the lingo and I'm getting old. But that's okay, and it's beautiful. And so that was an unexpected blessing. It wasn't one of the reasons we chose to homeschool, but over the years we learned, oh, this is incredible, and some other mamas would speak into that and help me to see the beauty of that opportunity. The living side by side with someone else that you miss out on when you're not at home. And so, there's that rubbing and working things out. And so again, there's a hard and a joy in the middle of all of that. So
That's such a good one. I would say my hardship and my joy goes side by side, parenting 24/7 and parenting 24/7. It is like being on, I guess you could say, all the time. There's a lot of flow in our day. We get to rest and we get to do joyful things together, but we get to be together all the time, and it's such a joy. And we're also together all of the time, which is really hard. If you spend nonstop time with anybody, it's not always pleasant, right? We are sinful humans and we're not perfect, and so then we don't treat each other perfectly all of the time. And so then having to address those constantly, both parentally and sibling to sibling. And so I would say that's definitely been the hardest thing, is there are days that are trying because we're all doing this today, and then there are days where they're so wonderful and we are growing and enjoying each other, and so, but getting to be there for it all. Like, I know my kids so well. ins and their outs, their likes and there's so much about them because I'm just there for all of it and for them to get to enjoy me all day as well, right? The things that we get to do together and we our interests and also our learning it's so sweet. I don't have to miss any of it, and I really, really appreciate that. One of my surprises in homeschooling is how much I'm learning. So I didn't know that I didn't remember a lot that I was taught, and getting to relearn it all and to do it next to my kids is so fun. We'll be reading something and I'm just in awe. And I'm like, guys, isn't this so exciting? Isn't this so cool? Did you guys even know? And they're like, yeah, Mom, so cool. So it just is, but then we'll watch movies and I'll be like, I got that reference. I've seen this movie so many times, I never got it, but it's one of those things of I just feel like I'm a kid. I'm getting to learn side by side, and it's really, really sweet to feel like I'm learning with them. I'm not trying to do this to them, all the time. Like, come on up here. So it's very side by side relational.
So the thing that comes to mind in this panel is that it's like they say that the days are short, or no, the days are long and the years are short. That's the one. And so it's like when I guess you're just giving up time. I'm giving up time with my kids, and I think that makes me sad. My middle's about to graduate, and so it just goes by in the blink of an eye. And so I think that's the biggest challenge, because I still love the idea of homeschool and keeping them home with me. But so much good fruit though, and one of the biggest surprises of Joy's is just seeing our little humans that we were honored to be able to raise, that God entrusted us with, just becoming better people than my husband and I. And I think that is just amazing, actually, that they're going to be better humans in this world, and just being able to see their faith become their own. And not all of them are there yet, but just seeing how you pass your faith on to your children regardless of what schooling you choose. You're passing your faith on, and that is our number one priority. It's no one else's job to do that but ours, and God gives us what we need when we need it to do that. And every single time we talk about the Lord and our faith, it's like you're giving a little hook and you're just hanging more and more on there, and they're going to understand, and they're going to have amazing faith. And to see that come and see that blossom, and just to see the fruit of my oldest just solely loving the Lord is just incredible, because they go from having a faith that's ours as parents to having their own faith, and that has been the greatest joy of my parenting.
So much. I was going to say today that this is just such a great place to cry. This is one of my favorite places to cry. I cry here all the time. So you do not need to apologize. Because if you do, that means that I need to do a whole lot of apologizing for how much I've cried here. Well, ladies,